Hey everyone, it's Shadow Joker here, and at long last, welcome to another countdown. Feels like it's been forever since I've last been able to say that, but anyway, I feel like I should just get started talking about the topic of this video. Pokemon. I've made it more than abundantly apparent that I love Pokemon on this channel, with two dedicated videos to the series, one being a video pronouncing my love for said series, and one being a countdown of my favorite Pokemon from a specific game in the series. And I even tried Let's Playing one of the games. Now, Let's Play didn't get finished because I was an idiot, but the point still stands that I did a lot of research. And the only reason I researched is because I love this series so much. Sure, it's gone from more of a, oh my god, everyone loves Pokemon feeling to people are more mixed on the series, and by mixed, I mean you either hate it or you're a huge fanboy for it. But times haven't changed for me. I'm still a rather large fan of this franchise. It's been one of the... Actually, I think it was the first major game franchise that I got into other than Mario. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's saying quite a lot. It stuck through me with the years. A lot of my favorite titles on the respective systems that they've been on are Pokemon games. But without delay, what am I specifically talking about in this video? Is it the gyms? Pokemon themselves? Nah, I figured I'd go straight into my personal rankings of each individual generation of Pokemon. Now first, what defines a Pokemon generation? How I am defining them is when a new, brand new main series game comes out, that is a new generation. And I will be counting any spin-offs released in a generation, but they won't be a major factor. I'll obviously also be including remakes. Without further ado, I would just like to make willfully apparent these are just my personal rankings of each generation. My claiming I am Am I saying that I'm proclaiming 100% fact that the generation I put the number 8 spot is the worst, and the generation I put the number 1 spot is flawless? No, this is going based solely off of which generations I enjoy more. Without further ado, let's get started. So coming in at the number 8 spot is the first generation. And, well, let's get to what I don't like about... Well, no, we don't start off with negatives. Let's go over the positives first. The roster of Pokemon is the second largest we've seen, and I'm more of the opinion if you make more Pokemon, I'm more likely to like them simply because you went out of your way to make a lot of Pokemon. And the designs, for the most part, do scream the idea of simplistic yet sophisticated, as I like pretty much all these designs. Once again, there are a couple of bad eggs, but we'll get to that in a bit. The region of Kanto, however, it's kinda bland, but I can't say that I didn't enjoy playing it. So again, it does... Once you've seen one cave in Kanto, you've seen all the caves in Kanto. Once you've seen all the routes in Kanto, you've seen all of them. I don't feel any particular area across the region other than maybe an Evil Team base really stuck out in my mind. And let's get to the battle system within the first gen itself, because oh boy, it's broken. First, I want to combat something that I feel like people go too easy on the first generation for. It's that, oh, it's the first game. It's first game, so it's allowed to get away with being bad. No, no, that's not how it works. I'll admit, I'm going to be a little lenient here since once again it is the first game and there wasn't a series-defining staple that they had in place yet. That being said, however, saying that it's the first game and it's a really old game doesn't really work here, considering this came out a year or two later than freaking Chrono Trigger. Yes, I know they're on completely different systems, but let's just put that into perspective. Saying that a game can just be simplistic and not that good design-wise when it came out after Chrono Trigger, I don't understand that logic. Maybe it's just people needing to be more critical of things. Maybe I'm being cynical for once in my life. Whatever it is. I will say, in the anime, though, the colorful characters do shine, but in the games, they're bland. Other than maybe Oak and your rival, maybe Giovanni, none of them really stuck out in my mind unless I look to other sources of media from the Pokemon series. And as I'm mainly criticizing the game here, I can't take the anime into consideration. And besides that, it's decent, I guess. Other than how broken the battle system was, speed, deciding critical hits, pretty much if you used a fast Pokemon like Persian or Alakazam, pretty much were guaranteed a critical hit as if you were using Rutger from Fire Emblem the Binding Blade. And Psychic types. I'm a man who tries to try out new Pokemon every single playthrough. When I play through Red and Blue, I can't do that because I have to choose a Psychic type for my team. Because they're so broken, there is no reason anyone shouldn't be using a Psychic type on their team. Hell, even if you just get a Pokemon like Butterfree with a Psychic type move early on, it'll still wreck house. Even though Butterfree won't last you well throughout the main game. But that's besides the point. It's very broken, hasn't aged well. Even though the designs are mostly good, not all of them hold up to today's standards. Especially the battle system. That being said, as much as I have a lot of criticisms with the original generation, it is what gave us the series. So as much as I don't like these games, I have to give them my respect. Anyway, on to the next entry. And coming at the number 7 spot, here we have Gen 2. One thing I would like to clarify, just this early on, it looks like the list is going to be decided by generations' ages. That is not how this is going to be decided. This is purely coincidental with the Gen's ages. Now, my biggest criticism with Gen 1 is that it hasn't aged well. And that kinda holds true for Generation 2 at the same time. Not anywhere to the same extent, but, it gets, Let's go over the positives. The roster is pretty relatively small, most of its new Pokemon being evolutions of previous Pokemon. And while that's not necessarily a problem, as that can work, it does take some of the originality away from the roster as a whole. Being said, a lot of these new Pokemon I really like. I can't tell you how many times I've used Crobat on my team. Heracross being my favorite Pokemon, period. That's one of the better rosters when you think about things. Even if it's not the most original and creative, considering most of these Pokemon are either evolutions of Gen 1 Pokemon, or Pokemon that were originally planned to be in Gen 1, but they couldn't because of they had to cut them out. That being said, one criticism I only found when starting to make this list, and what made Gen 2 have to jump down a couple of spots, was the leveling system. For a while, you're just fighting stuff that's underleveled, and unless you grind, you're gonna be underleveled. After that point, this happens roughly around Claire's gym, and even with I had a pretty good balanced team, I was still struggling. And I'm not talking like late game boss fights where, yeah, I should be struggling during those. Random trainer fights, I was struggling. The leveling system is just poor, and that leads me to go into the region where I have the exact same thoughts as previously. Kanto. Once you've explored one route in Johto, sea, or cave, explored them all. Maybe a couple of areas like the radio tower and Team Rocket Space sticking out. Johto just isn't very interesting. Feels like Kanto too. In fact, they have to make up for this boring region by having you explore Kanto again. Sorry, I don't like being overly negative in these videos. This is the last time it should happen in this video. And the characters, once again, they don't really stand out. The exception of Silver. Silver is a very good rival. I really like him, but one character isn't gonna make me think very highly of the entire cast. Short, Johto is pretty much Kanto 2 in a lot of areas, with only real redeeming factor is Silver and a couple of new Pokemon. But as of the next entry, things should get a bit more positive. So we go from me saying that I'm gonna try and be more positive to talk about the generation that disappointed me the most. Okay, I'm gonna be a lot more positive this time around. Let's start off with the Pokemon roster. The roster is barely solid all across the board. Sure, it's the smallest roster we've had to date, but as much as I do like the quantity of Pokemon in some games like Kanto, well, just Gen 1, if I'd rather have fewer very good Pokemon than a lot of Pokemon that some I like and some I don't like. Roster is very solid. Some of my favorites being Aegislash, Klefki, simply because of how absurd the design is and actually making sense. And the starters. I surprisingly really like all the starters instead of just Greninja, which is what I see the popular opinion online is. The region feels a bit similar to Kanto, but unlike Kanto, it does have a couple of standout features. The cities feel more lively, and it's still a lot better in my opinion. I didn't bring up the evil team in the last region since I feel Team Rocket are just generic and I didn't want to sound like I was just criticizing the first two games, but now let's go over Team Flare, and just like my opinions on Gen 6 as a whole, I don't hate them, but I do find them disappointing. They got really cool designs, but their plan is pretty much to make everything fabulous by blowing everything up. This is taking the term glam Nazi to a whole new extent. And their boss, Lysander, honestly, he is a little bit more betterly foreshadowed than the champion, but not by much. You see him a couple of times. Time he gives you a King's Rock, and all of a sudden, after you beat the 7th gym, it's like, by the way, I'm gonna blow up the planet. What? And this is meant to be a story-based experience, as you meet a lot of characters. And Lysander does try to go deep into his motivations. One thing I see the Pokemon community, or even just people in the general gaming community who talk about Pokemon, talk about is how Black and White was a one-time story experience. No, that was not it. X and Y is also a story-based experience, so are Sun and Moon. Just because you don't like the story that's being told or you think it's weak doesn't mean it's not a story-based experience, but at this point I'm just getting off track. This, as you can tell, not a very big fan of Team Flare. And, the characters as a whole, you don't see much of them. Other than Clement and Wolfric, hope I'm saying his name right, you don't see much of any other characters. Even your rivals aren't very interesting. As a whole, this game doesn't feel very good. That being said, it did introduce one of my favorite features, the Mega Evolutions. While they did occasionally just pander to very already powerful Pokemon, there was also an attempt to balance some lower level Pokemon. Plus, they did balance the meta with the introduction of Fairy-types. Since Fairy-types are very new, I'm still mixed on the whole idea of them being a thing. But I still think it's a great idea to try and not defeat, but nerf the overpowered dragons. Let us not forget the fantastic remakes of Ruby and Sapphire. Mega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are fantastic. They even give it a bit more of a story with the Delta episode. There's not much for me to say, considering it's pretty much just Ruby and Sapphire, but with some new stuff from Gen 6. Anyway, on to the next entry. One thing I would like to mention before we get this segment started, this video began production before the Isle of Armor was released. I still haven't gotten around to playing the Isle of Armor. Therefore, for this Generation 8 segment, nothing from the Isle of Armor will be brought up, as I haven't experienced it at the time of recording this. Just I should make that apparent in case anyone wants to ask for it. Coming at the number 5 spot, we have the brand new Genatin. After my first experiences with Sword and Shield, I've been wanting to talk about Gen 8. Let's go over the positives. I'm a really big fan of Galar as a region. It's what a good Pokemon region should be, in my opinion. It has a lot of diversity in the areas, and, well, just, it looks nice. Sounds like if I were in the Pokemon world, it's among the top regions that I'd want to live just because everything is so diverse. One day you could be in the desert, next stormy, not snowy area, and you could also just run around the wild areas and have a good time. Really big fan of the region. As the new Pokemon introduced, I like most of them. Sure, not all are God tier designs, but I don't think there's ever been a generation where I've liked everything from a design standpoint. But I really like a lot of the Pokemon, such as the starters, Boltund, Corviknight, Orbeetle. Yeah, let's talk about the bugs real quick, because I haven't really gotten much of a chance to talk about how the bugs have been treated. Since, spoiler alert, bugs are my favorite type. There may be only 3 bugs in this game, but they were all treated fantastic. I love all of them. And I really gotta use more of them sometime. But anyway, onto the cast of characters, because this is Sword and Shield's greatest aspect. The story may be toned down from other games, but its cast is fantastic. Hop, who originally just seems like your happy-go-lucky rival, actually develops. Bede is one of my favorite rivals across the series. Marnie, I like her. Definitely like her. Feel the fan base puts her on a bit of a pedestal though, but that's besides the point. Champion is very interesting. All the side characters, whether they're gym leaders, just people you battle throughout, are really well, they're just nice. I like them. Though going on a evil team, Team Yell, I know they're not necessarily evil, and they do fit with Galar's atmosphere, and one thing I love about it, gonna get to that in a bit, but they just don't interest me. Near this Mark's Cosmos, they just seem bland and uninteresting, with Marnie just being, not Marnie, Team Yell being pretty much Marnie's fan club, and Mark's Cosmos just coming in at the end, so you don't get to learn much about them and their actual goal. And the atmosphere of the Galar region. How the gym challenge is treated as a sport. I really like this. It kind of makes sense why you have all these people actually rooting for you to do your gym challenge, potentially become the champion, because the people of Galar watch on a regular basis, but in other regions, it feels like people would help you out with that just for no reason. And for that, I give Galar props. Though, let's talk about some of the negatives. The national dex cuts. I'm a defender of this, but even I'll admit, I don't think it's super bad. I mean, no Pokemon have been 100% obtainable, every single one in a single game. But I can see why people are upset about it. It doesn't upset me personally, but I'm not gonna act like it's not a problem. And that being said, there's one thing we have to talk about. This game was clearly rushed. I feel Pokemon needs a lot more time in the future. And considering how we're just getting DLC this year and not an actual new game, I hope that Generation 9, or if there's going to be any remakes coming for Gen 8, that they are given more time and detail to. I sung a lot of Galler's praise, but I admit it's very flawed, and that's part of why it's lower on the list. In fact, it would probably be below Gen 6 if it wasn't for the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX remake, because that game is utterly fantastic. But considering I haven't beaten it yet, I don't want to go into too much detail about it. Now it's time to see how much people tear me apart about putting Galar this high on the list. But anyway, next entry. Entry number 4 and onwards is when I really like these games. And coming in at number 4 is Generation 7. This is honestly an odd gen for me, because funnily enough, when people acting like, oh, the Pokemon fanbase has to think more critically of the Pokemon games going forward, came after the games that almost every Pokemon fan seemed to praise like they were the messiah of the series. Not a problem, just an observation I made. But let's get to the positives, starting off the Alola region as a whole. Yes, it's mainly islands and water, but I'm surprised at the amount of variety they were able to pull with just islands and water. Alola is not my favorite Pokemon region, but definitely has its quaint feel, and that alone just makes it feel special to me. I'll admit, unlike Galar, where it was based in the UK region, Hawaiian culture doesn't really interest me, but that being said, I'm a really big fan of all the little references they were able to put into Hawaii. And going for the Pokemon, I really like the Pokemon roster. Yes, it's pretty small once again, but a lot of the Pokemon were very well made. This is another case of where I thought the bugs were well treated. Golisopod, Araquanid, Vikavolt, so on and so forth. So many good bug types. In fact, it's the first thing I think of for my team whenever I make a team for a Generation 7 playthrough. Not which starter I'm gonna pick, which bug I'm gonna use. Because they're all so good. And next up is the cast of characters. I have trouble deciding on whether I like this or Gen 8's cast more. I think I'm gonna have to give the edge to Gen 7 though. Mainly because they do actually pull off a good story. Gladion being the first time in a really long time they were actually able to make a successful antagonistic rival again. How is a friendly rival done right, in my opinion? Lily's a very interesting character. Guzma is entertaining. Kukui is just downright awesome. Luzamine, at least when we're talking original Sun and Moon, is one of the most fascinating antagonists across the series. And Team Skull, despite being actual Pokemon gangsters, are probably one of the deepest motivations we've seen for a team, probably outside of the original Team Plasma. And that's saying a lot. And what can else be said? Well, time to start with the negatives, starting with the other games. Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. It added a lot, and I think it's the definitive Alolan experience. But due to one slight change in the plot and making the antagonistic Necrozma instead of Lusamine, went from one of the most ugh, gripping stories I've experienced in the Pokemon series, other than the Black and White, the game that sparked Pokemon can make good stories whole shtick, to it's okay, I guess. I mean, the original beats are still there, but because Lusamine is just selfish and greedy and wanting to stop Necrozma instead of, an actual psychopathic mother, it just doesn't work. I mean, the characters who are really good and really entertaining are still good, but the overall experience is weakened in terms of story. And Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. This is another game I'm kinda mixed on. Does a lot of things good. It's definitely the definitive Kanto experience. So much that if I ever get around to Let's playing Fire and Leaf Green, I am going to actually Let's Play this game after Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Once again, assuming my Let's Plays even get that far. It's so different, but it's not a fantastic game. It's okay. And there isn't much more to be said. I'm an Alolan fan. Oh, one thing I should mention. This game's gimmick was Alolan forms. I really like them. Yes, I know we already went over Gen 8 and that has Galarian forms. And I know I also really like that because it adds a full-on new evolution mechanic. But I personally just referred it as Alolan forms. It just felt more special. Not that Galarian forms are bad. Anyway, on to the next century. Next up is Gen 4, and even though this is in the top 3, where I think these... Sorry about the cut, I had to take care of something, but where these games get really good into my potential top favorites, I feel a lot of people are going to ridicule me. Guess we're not putting Gen 4 at number 1. Because I actually have a bit of a funny story regarding Gen 4. Roughly around the time where I feel like everyone in the world started praising it as the best generation was, funnily enough, Unsigned Chugga Let's played it where he claimed that he felt it was underrated. Which, funnily enough, despite the fact that that series, that series, that was made around the time when everyone was like, oh, it's underrated. Still people claiming that it's underrated, despite the fact that now it's the popular opinion to be the best game in the franchise. Sorry, just a little hot take on unpopular opinions. Anyway, onto the snow as a region. It's got a bit more snow than I'd like, but I find exploring snow enjoyable. It's fantastic. Sure, there's a bit more caves and snow than I'd like, but there are a lot of little secrets in throughout snow, and I really like exploring it. Like, what else can be said? And the Pokemon roster. Oh god, the roster. It does follow the Gen 2. Oh, a lot of these are just evolutions of new Pokemon. But in the case of Gen 4, these are a lot of Pokemon that either really need it or were good, but weren't considered fantastic. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. The obvious mentions going to the starters, pretty much every new evolution, and Garchomp. Garchomp is cool. Next up is the overall cast of characters. I'm gonna say right here and right now, Barry is my favorite rival in the whole series. That how can I be contested? He's very simple, but I like him. Other characters are mainly meh, with the exceptions of Cynthia, Looker, and Cyrus. With Cynthia, as much as I like her, I still feel like it's the case with Marnie where the fandom puts them on a bit of a pedestal. So yeah. That being Looker, though, he is similar to Guzma. As much as I do find him a very intriguing character, most of the fun is, well, he's funny. And besides that, Cyrus is once again one of the more intriguing antagonists across the series. Heck, the only real major criticism I have is the speed that the Gen 4 games run at. It's so slow. And I guess I can mention, while I'm at it, the Heart Gold Soul Silver remix. They don't fix my biggest problem with Gen 4, so overall I don't think they're amazing like everyone else on the planet does, but they're good. On to the next thing. Oh boy, if putting Galar, Sinnoh, and now Hoenn in their respective spots, well, this is what's going to make you guys tear me apart. Yeah, I put Gen 3 at the number 2 spot. When I was looking at the games in the series that I enjoyed the most, I was honestly surprised to find out that I loved this game as much as I do. But Gen 3, despite not introducing Gen 4's greatest mechanic, the physical special split, it's still very good. Sure, there are a couple of Pokemon who would be way better if they were just introduced a generation later, but that honestly doesn't bother me too much. The game's just great. Now let's go over the region of Hoenn. Overall, a lot of people have gripes with Hoenn, saying how it's mostly water, even though I explained in my Emerald Let's Play that's a diagonal split. Therefore, one portion of the game is pretty much entirely on the land, other portion almost entirely on the water. It's not as big as a problem as I feel like some people make it out to be. And honestly, I don't mind it, because while the water segments are kinda and kinda boring, the land areas are consistently interesting. I said in my Let's Play that Fortress City was my favorite city in the entirety of the Pokemon series, and that still rings true. Now for the roster. Fantastic. Across the board. Pokemon like the starters, Aggron, Ludicolo, etc., etc. They're fantastic designs with one, two, or maybe even three exceptions across the board. Masterpieces. Each and every one of them. Now for the cast of characters. This game is an odd one for me, since in terms of characters and story, it was still in that weird period where Pokemon didn't really prioritize having a story. And for that reason alone, have to deduct the characters some points. I don't find any of them particularly interesting, exception of maybe Steven. And those are all the gripes I have. It introduced double battles, which I really like, and for this reason. The Shadow Pokemon games are what get Gen 3 so high. Sure, they're considered by many to be spin-offs, but I think they're damn good enough to be considered main games. And if we can consider Let's Go games main series, I don't see why not we can't consider Shadow Pokemon games. They're pretty much an RPG of Pokemon games, with the exception of you don't take gyms on, and every battle is a double battle. And that's where a lot of strategy and a lot of Pokemon that either wouldn't like as much or straight up wouldn't like at all if it wasn't for this game are some of my more favorite Pokemon. Well, because of this game. Gen 3 is fantastic, but for me, still not the best. And number 1 goes to Pokemon Black and White. If I were to make this list back at the start of my YouTube career, I would have probably been torn up inside out if it wasn't already for some of my previous placements. But I see a lot more people actually praise Generation 5 nowadays. Now, I'm just gonna make this abundant as possible. As of this moment in time, Pokemon Black and White are my favorite Pokemon games. So, in case it wasn't obvious enough from Gen 5 being my favorite gen, these are my favorite games in the franchise. Now let's start off with Unova as a region. Some people say it's linear. I don't. Even though, in terms of story objective, you could just run straight to the goal and there'd be nothing left. But then there's so much fun areas to explore. Sharkstone Cave is amazing. I love Twist Mountain in the winter. Vic, this is easily the best victory road we've had in the franchise. And this just gets amplified by the new stuff added in Black and White 2. Fortunately, I haven't played as much of Black and White 2 as I have the original Black and White, so can't really sing as much praise. But the point still stands. I love these games. Now the roster. I'm going to make one of the most controversial takes of my YouTube career. Pokemon Black and White have not only the best roster of Pokemon across the series, they have the Pokemon in said roster. I don't think a single one of them is bad. Even Pokemon that, in a objective sense, where I'd have to bio them in a Let's Play for Black and White. Even in that case, I can't bring myself to dislike a single one of these Pokemon. The story and characters are fantastic. Ghetsis is a fantastic antagonist. Your rivals get developed quite so much. The gym leaders even actually do stuff other than provide bosses. Alder is a very interesting champion. And N, I think N is the most intriguing character across the Pokemon franchise. And Hue is up there with my rivals, but once again I haven't played as much of Black and White 2 as I have the original, therefore I can't sing as high praises. I really struggle to find something I don't like with Generation 5. Maybe tripling rotation valves, and that's more so just because they didn't get kicked off in the meta. Besides that, I don't really see a flaw here. Anyway, this has been Shadow Joker. And until my next video, take care.